We have this file here, and this file is intended to apply a mesh light in my scene and trying to create a composition of lights that uses sky dome, and as if you had a light bulb on top of my character. I'm gonna attempt to creating color layer with it. Hopefully I can get that to work. So right now I have my character here. It's already textured, and I created in this file a sphere, and that sphere has one sphere is a geometry, and I put a mesh light on that sphere, and then I have a couple of cubes that are suggesting kind of the stems inside of a light bulb, and those are also one mesh light. So there are two mesh lights connected right there. So what are the results of those giving me? Of course, I put an environment that is darker sky dome. That way makes sense. I don't have an image plane behind here, so that's why my character is not standing on anything. But my this is my results that I'm getting there. So how am I achieving that? Let's see. So let's start. Let me hide the sphere outside. So let's start by those two guys in there. So those, the cube and the mesh light for that. The mesh light for that has a high intensity, and is showing the original mesh. And the original mesh, which is of course is this piece, is using a, let me call my hypershade here. I'm gonna graph it right here. That piece of geometry is using an AI flat that has a little bit of yellowish tint to it. So again, that geometry, has an AI flat on it, and that AI flat there is, it just makes it kind of glow. So the mesh light is letting me see that geometry. Is not showing the light, is showing the mesh light. And I cranked up the exposure and intensity quite a bit, so I can get it to produce light inside of the light bulb. Now, the sphere on top of it, which is the glass, let me just make it visible now. That one also has a mesh light on, and that mesh light has a lot of intensity, a lot of exposure to, and is showing the original mesh. But that original mesh has, let me try to graph it right there. Graph that. Let me clear this and then graph that one. That one has a, hopefully that shows it. Oh, I have selected the wrong thing. Let's select the geometry there. And then we just graph it. It has a glass shader. That glass shader has a tiny bit of emission, just a tiny bit of emission. And of course, a lot of transparency in it and transmission with some color and transmission that gives it a kind of yellowish tint to it. The rest of it is pretty much the glass shader as it came by default from the preset. So, and the other thing is that this object, this sphere object, is not in the render staff in the active editor, is not casting shadows. That way, when you render it, it doesn't cast shadows. If it was casting shadows, it would block the light that's coming from inside. I wouldn't let the light that's coming from inside come as strong as it could. It's not making a big difference, but it could. It kind of helps it a bit more, letting some of the light come out. Well, and also letting some of the light being visible on the ground. Right now, my object, my shadow mat on the ground, it's not showing the shadow completely, and that's because, of course, I don't have an image plane behind, but it's casting shadow. It's just that it's not completely visible right there. You can see there in the alpha how the shadow is kind of affecting around the object, and then it's kind of fading away in the distance. So that's what the composition of the lights is. The shader of the character and everything is very straightforward as it came from my texturing program, ZBrush. Now, if I want to make this guy be placed in a layer. Let me just increment this here, just in case my computer crashes, I don't lose anything. So I'm now going to try to bring him into a layer setup. So I would want to create a, let me call that, I'm going to create my color layer. So I'm going to say color right there. And then create a collection for it. And then I'm going to assign to it, of course, all the geometry, which is my guy, right? All of my creature, like the eyeball, everything pretty much. Everything, I'm just going to add that. And I'm going to add also my sky dome and all of my lights and my objects there. They need to be part of it. I don't want to add the ground plane because the ground plane is not expected to be part of that layer, so that I'm just producing only light. So when I go and visualize that layer, I should be able to see my guy. Of course, I need to remove the image plane, and I need to hide the sky dome from it. I forgot to hide the sky dome from it right now. It's going to render it. Let's just give it a second for it to render it. It'll take more than a second, actually. It is a slow process. I'm reading over the network right now. So my file is actually on campus and I'm reading but the network, so that's why a little bit slower. All right, it's time to come back. There is, okay, I moved my camera, I guess. Oh, that's the perspective camera. But you can see now how it is, the color is working. So what I'm gonna do now is I need to hide that sky dome, because the sky dome, I don't want it to be visible in the layer, so I'm gonna turn it off from the camera. So when I render it, he's off, and then I have him right there. In this case, since we don't want to receive shadows, we're gonna just do the override as we did in the video, in the prior video. If I want to create a shadow layer for it, let me just save that one. It's pretty much the same thing. If I have a shadow layer created for, let me just call my layers again. I'm gonna create a layer for my shadow. And then just create a collection for it. Cannot type here, the collection. All right, and I'm gonna, for that, I'm gonna go back to my master. In this case, I need to select, of course, all my creature. And I need to collect, let's see, I need to add to that. I don't want the objects, such as the light bulb, to be in the shadows. I need just the lights, not the spheres, but just the lights, those objects that produce light. See how that those get added, plus my sky dome, of course, plus my ground plane. I want to add those to it, right? And now the objects, I don't have the spheres and just the lights as part of it. If I render that out, let me see what that does. I'm gonna try to render out the shadow layer. Right now it should be, I render the actual camera. It's not showing me the camera. Let me go and look through my camera one. There you go. I'm gonna try rendering my camera one, see if it does it. All right, camera one right there. Let's see if it does. It's not going to give me shadow, it's only going to give me just color, the same as it was before. Just give it a moment for it to render it. All right, just coming back right now. You can see now it's being rendered. Light are part of it. Sky dome is illuminating the object. Of course, there is no background in it, but the spheres that make the glass and the stems that produce light are not part of it because I don't want those to be receiving shadow. So that's roughly what I want it to be. Let me just save that just to be sure. Let's stop rendering here for a moment. And now I'm going to put an override on this collection. So I'll create a shade override, and that shade override is going to use my shadow matte. All right, so let me test that, see how that looks. All right, that's kind of going relatively quickly. And now you can see now how my shadows are being affected. My object receiving a ground is receiving a lot of shadow, just kind of starting to fade in the distance because, of course, the light is very low. If you want to add a little extra light, you can crank up the sky dome. My sky dome is a bit dark. It's kind of 0.2 or 0.5. Let me see how strong my sky dome is. Um, 0.5 in intensity, so it's not as its strongest. So if you crank it up, you'll get a little bit less of that shadow. Let's see if I crank it up right there. You know, just increments a little bit of the lighting here, so the shadow is less strong. You can also modify the shadow value for the light that is casting. That means the mesh light, but this will do the work for your shadow. I'm gonna save that. So that your object will receive shadows in certain places and it will not be illuminating in some other places. And that will give you shadows, and that will give you color layer, which are the ones that you need for the basic compositing of it. I'm sorry, this is the color layer, not that one. So color layer, of course, I did it from a different angle. So you can see color layer and shadows will be able to give you what you need to do. Hopefully you'll be able to take care of it. Of course, wireframe and ambient occlusion will be the same process as the shadows, which means you do not want the spheres to be in the ambient occlusion, especially. You don't want them to be part of it. All right, good luck with it. Hopefully you'll be able to use it for your process.